Hey guys, so let's continue with swimming, and in this one we're going to add some animations and also functionality for swimming underwater. And for animations we can download some from Click.o. So if you open Click.o, you have some animations for free. And since we haven't done it, for those of you that don't know, I'm also going to show you how we can retarget these animations to Unreal Engine. So first let's search for swimming. And there is only one of them, so select this one, swimming animation, download it, and here just make sure this one we need to download with the skin, because we want to retarget this animation from the default character from Click.o to Unreal Engine, so we need the skin for that. And rest of it can be the same, just download it. And then one more we can get is threading. So threading water, this will be idle when we're not actually moving. And this one you don't need to get a skin, you can do without. So after you download two of them, let's import them to Unreal. In third person animations, I'm going to create a new folder which will be Click.o anim, and in here I'm going to import it. The reason I'm doing new folder is because there is quite a lot of assets that will import. So here I do have swimming, just the swimming. So that's the one with the skin. Import that first. Don't change the skeleton or anything else. We need to import the default character. Or you can just reset to default and then import all. And now as you can see, I've imported some character as well, and then swimming animation, which is working fine, but it is still on the different skeletal mesh. So first, let's import the second one, which was threading water. This time you do have this swimming skeleton that we have just imported, so import. And once we have these two animations, we can just right click on one of them and then retarget animations. And since I think Unreal Engine 5.3, they made it really easy. Before you have to select each bone and match it to the rotations and stuff like that. And now all you have to do is just select these assets. Select the target skeletal mesh, which for us is SKM money or queen, whichever you're using, if you're using female. So I'll select SKM money, and then with these both assets selected, you can also open it, what it will look like. You can just export animations. And I'm going to use the same folder, Click.o, for now, so export it, and here export as well. And now we do have these two assets, but in the correct mesh. The one problem is with the swimming one. You can see that it swims to the end, and then it resets and goes from this side. And this will actually happen when you set up animation as well. It will just be very jumpy. But what you can select here is force root lock. And again, Click.o animations can be quite buggy with this force root lock. Sometimes it doesn't even work. And in this case, it actually rotated my character upward. So what we can do is select the scene component and rotate it ourselves, because we already know how. But I actually have the Click.o retargeter that does this type of stuff for you. It's for free, you can also download it. It's a little bit tricky to figure out, but then after you actually manage to install it and everything, it's quite easy. But I have included this retargeted animation for you, so you can just download it, and I have it here, swimming retargeted. This is what it will look like. So it still moves to the end, but then when you check this force root lock, it will actually stay in place. So download this one instead, it's easier to work with. But then after we import it, we also need to change a few things. So first of all, we want to have head above water. We don't want to swim like this, like straight. So what I have done is I have changed my head rotation. I have changed the whole body rotation slightly bit higher. So just my shoulders are above water. And then I've changed a few of the bones on the arms and stuff like that, so they wouldn't be going as high as they are now. And my final version was basically this one. So you can actually use the default one that we import, but then we will be using socket mesh on the head, so you have to position it differently. But this is basically what you want your animation to look like. You want to be swimming. Like if the water is here, you know, you want to have this part above water. So I'm not going to do it on a video because it takes really long time. It took me like a couple hours to do both of them, which is the swimming and the swimming idle. But what I recommend doing is you can again just drag out idle as we did with other animations, duplicate it so you have two of them. Then I don't have a sequence here, so add level sequence, and you can just add actor to sequence, idle, so this part is the same. Idle, the first one, and then remove control rig. For animations you will do swimming, which is the retargeted one, and then you would right click and bake to control rig, CR mannequin body. And then you can also add the second one, so you can see where the first one will be located and stuff, so it's not too far apart. So you can add actor idle 2, remove control rig. For animation I will do threading water, and then right click and bake to control rig, CR mannequin body. And one thing you want to reposition correctly is the root, because you can see the root is on the different places. So that means when you animate from the idle to actually moving animation, it will be a little bit jumpy. So what I did is basically rotation and location. I think you can just reset it on the first frame here to 0, and then you delete all the other keys that you have apart from the first one. That will straighten it for you. And what I did is on this first character, just a suggestion, I've moved the spine a little bit higher, I think like that, and I think I rotated the whole character, which you can do with global, and then I moved him somehow like that, and did the same thing on the idle one, and just positioned the root after again, so they actually on the beginning and stuff, so they're matching the roots, but then the position of the body you want to get as close as possible. And for the swimming one, you can also, you know, you want to do it so your head is above the water. So it takes a little bit of time playing with it, but it's not that difficult. If you want to download the one I have, it's on my Patreon for the members, it's free, or you can actually purchase it, but as I said, it just takes a little bit of time. And after you have done that, we can create the blend space. So we can go to our third person animations. I'll do it in the swim. I have created a new folder here, and we right click and search for blend space 1D. This will be SK mannequin. Then in here what you want to do is, I'll just change snap to grid, and this name of this horizontal axis will be speed, and 0 and 100 is fine. Anything above 100 will just be swimming anyway. So here I'm going to do swim, and I do have this swim final, which is swim idle. The first one here will be idle, and then anything after that will be the swim forward, which is your swimming animation. So it goes from idle to forward, and as you can see I have positioned it so it actually doesn't move as much. But if you use the default ones, it will be a little bit clunky. But one more thing we want to change here is the not smoothing time, there is wait speed. So how long it will take to change from one animation to other. Change it to like 0.5. That will go nicely and smoothly. And then to set up this blend space, we can go to ABP Money, which is our animation blueprint, open locomotion, and we could do it the easy way, that in the anim graph we could just before this select one more thing and just do blend space based on if we are swimming. But long term it's better to have it here. So from the idle I will drag out, do add state, this will be swimming. And if you want to go from idle to swimming, all we have to do is just check is swimming. Then if you want to go back to idle, drag from swimming to idle, and here we need to get swimming and not boolean, so not swimming. And then We also want to go from walk and run, because if you run towards water, it won't actually change to swimming because it can't go from here to here. It doesn't have any lines connected. So from walking to running, we can set up. Here we can do also just is swimming, because if we're running and we start swimming, we will go to swim. But when we're going back to swimming to walking and running, we need to also get should move and boolean for swimming, not swimming. So we're not swimming, but we're still moving, so not boolean. And then we'll go back to running. Right, so we do have setup from idle and from walk and run, and here in the swimming we just need to connect our blend space, which is swim. I didn't name it anything. This will be swimming underscore bs for blend space. Connect it, and this I wrote it wrong as well. So in the blend space, this is not sped, it's speed. And here in the ABP we need to connect speed, which we have as a variable, which is ground speed. Connect it, compile and save, and now all is set. Now when we go to water, I'll start swimming, and you can see I'm swimming nicely. I stop and I slowly move to idle, which actually looks pretty good. And now we are on the same position, so what we want to do is just go slightly above the water and also move down or up as we want. So for movement, let me just close this sequencer, and for movement, first we need to go to player, event graph, and in the movement we do have this whole thing set up. Easiest thing would be we could do some select from here and everything, because we will be using this first part, but I think the whole new system will be better if we just create like somewhere else. So we'll do branch, and we'll check if we are swimming. We need to get it from movement component. Is swimming. We could also create variable ourselves, but there is one already, so why not use this? So is the character swimming? False, we go to where we were before. If it's true, let's copy this whole thing. So these two movement inputs, which is left and right and up and down, or like forward and backward. We need to connect X to the first one and Y to the second one. We'll connect true to this part. It's probably a good idea to move this up and start redirecting these things. I'll just do it above, because under we need to do a few more checks, a few more notes. There we go, something like that. And now we want to move in all directions, and if you can see here, this is the basically forward vector. This helps us move forward and backward, and it's only checking the Z value, but we want to be checking all of them. So from this control rotation we can connect all of those things, and that will mean that we can move in any direction we want. So now if I go to water, I start swimming, and I can go up, I can go down, left, right, basically any direction I want. The problem is if I go too high, I can fly, because we're not checking where the surface of water is or anything like that, and we're still swimming, and we can swim in all directions. It's kind of like flying. So we need to prevent that. First thing we want to do in the player, we're going to create new boolean, and this one will be is on surface, which means when we reach the surface we want to prevent going up. And then here in the water body, in this blueprint that we set up, is we can remove this print string, First thing before we do anything here is we need to create a new socket on the mesh. So select the mesh, open this, and I like to use this SK mannequin. If you search for head, we could be using this socket that we already have for helmet, but the problem is it can be rotated slightly and position it in a different way, and then once your character is leaning forward, like the values will be messed up. So instead, right click on the head, add new socket, and this one will be swim socket, just so it's on the default position and it doesn't move. And that will basically tell us when the socket is above the water and stuff. So let's copy this name. Let's go to water body lake, or whatever water body you're using. And then here we're going to drag from as player BP. We're going to get mesh, skeletal mesh, asset mesh. Don't need the skeletal mesh asset, sorry, just the mesh. And then get socket location. Socket location will paste here, so that will be swim socket, and it will check the location of the swim socket. We will break it open, so drag from the vector, break it open, and if the Z value is greater than water surface location, we again need to break it open, and we're only checking Z because that's the height. So if our head socket is higher than this water body surface location, then we get that variable from the player is on surface set, and we'll set it to true. So we'll set it based on this, either true or false, and basically it will be checking it on tick. It's probably I didn't compile the player blueprint, yeah. So compile player blueprint and then compile it here. Now we know when we are on the surface. So in the player, what we want to do is we want to select from this vector. So disconnect this, then do select, and we will check if we are on the surface. If we are not, false, we will be using the same one. If we are on the surface, we need to drag from the Z value, because that is the one that goes up or down, and we need to clamp it, clamp float between, sorry, my bad, because we need to go from the vector, not from this one. We need to clamp the vector. So move this back, disconnect this, right click, split this value, and so this forward vector is basically control rotation is where you're looking with the camera, so where your camera is facing. Forward vector is forward vector from that point forward, but then Z value will be if you're looking down with your character. So if you're facing down, it will be -1, directly 90 degrees. If you're facing up, it will be 1, and if you're facing forward, it is 0. So Z value, we want to only be looking down. So this one we will clamp, because we don't want to basically go up. So we'll clamp it between -1 as a minimum, and maximum will be 0. So we won't be able to actually rotate up. It won't take it. And then we will split. So this is true value on the surface, so split the true value. This will be Z. Wait, am I right here? Is on the surface true? Yeah, we're clamping it, X and Z. If we are not, if we are on false, we just need to get this whole thing, so we can also split it and just get forward vector and connect the rest of them. I'll leave it here. Alright, compile and save. Now, if I go into water, I go down, that is fine, but then when I try to go up, my head pops up, but I suddenly can't go any higher. and you can see I'm standing on this spot. I'm still a little bit too much out of water, so we can prevent that as well. But for now, this is working as intended. I can only go down from here, not up. But then one more thing is, if I actually want to go backwards, like this, then I can still fly as I was, and that is because our vector, that our control rotation is still facing down, so our control rotation and forward vector will be minus 1, but then we're going backwards, so we actually can fly. So we need to prevent the fact that if we're holding the back arrow, we also need to fix that value, so we need to clamp it between 1 and 0 this time. So here we will do one more check, and that is if this y value is greater than 0. I know this is a little bit complicated, but I mean, took me a while to figure out as well to work correctly, but this is what it will fix. I'm probably not going to explain it in the best way because it is a lot of calculations, but if you just do here select, you'll do basic select, and to true we will connect another clamp float, which will be this value, and this time we're clamping it by 1 and 0, because so if it's higher than true, I'm just thinking which one needs to be connected. So true needs to be minus and 1 because it's the forward one, so that's true, and false needs to be this. And then if it is, so if it is greater than 0, this will be just the z value of the is on the surface, this one here, instead of that one. So now, going backwards, forward, yeah, that should be all fine. So now, if I go play the game, go into water, and then go backwards, you can still see I'm just keep bobbing on the top, and it doesn't work, doesn't let me go up, and here doesn't let me go up either. Just wondering why I'm actually going under for a bit. Let's fix that. So in the player, alright, okay, here is the mistake, because this minimum value obviously needs to be lower than max, otherwise it can give you a lot of trouble. So here minimum will be 0 and maximum will be 1. Okay, we're on the surface, and that should prevent the bobbing, like when I was going backwards. Yeah, okay. So now it's actually preventing me to go up. When I'm going backwards, I'm holding back arrow, down arrow I mean, or when I'm going forward, this is the maximum height. But then also it can happen that I go a little bit higher than I'm intended to, and that is just because with the speed that you're swimming, and also it doesn't register on time because we're looping 10 times per second. We could increase that, but we'll prevent it in different way. What I want to do now is, if you're trying to swim forward like straight and holding camera like this, then I'm eventually going to go down. So only way to actually keep swimming on the surface is if my camera is facing kind of this way, so you don't want to be underwater because you don't see. You want to have a camera somewhere here, but we need to prevent that angle from going down. So in the player, we will do one more check, and that is if this value from -1 to 0 is greater than, oh, sorry, no, not greater, less than 0.5, so less than -0.5. So the angle again is, you're looking down, it's -1, you're looking straight, it's 0. 0.5 will be somewhere here, and only if we angle our camera more than that, then we're going to move down. So from this we need to do one more select float. It is a bit messy, I know already, but this one will go to true here. And so if that angle is not, so B will be 0, we will change it to 0, so we won't move in that direction, but if it is, we'll just get that direction that we're moving. Compile and save. And now I can actually go up, keep this camera at this level, even go a little bit higher like that, and I'm not going down, as you can see. But if I move the camera more than 45 degrees like this, I'll just go down. So now you can actually swim on the surface without issues. Right? We're not preventing it going backwards like this because there is no point. You usually should be swimming forward as well. You could do the same climb, but I don't think there is a reason to that. So now we can swim on the surface. Let's fix this staying above the ground too much, above the water. So there is few issues playing with it. So first of all, on the character movement, if you type in swim here, you do have few settings, and this braking deceleration swimming, that takes a little bit of speed before you actually stop. So I would increase it to 2000. I'm not sure what is the cap. That will let you go. And also in the water body, at the moment we're checking this only 10 times per second, and sometimes it doesn't register straight away. But instead of checking that, we will prevent it in a different way. We're going to move this further down. And then what I want to check is, so if, again, this socket, which is the swim socket on the head, and here minus will do minus, subtract location of the water surface. And if this is greater than 20, so if there is more than 20 difference between our head and the surface, then, and also we should be checking if we are swimming, otherwise it will be switching it off. So end boolean and is swimming, which we need to get again from the movement components. Do we have it somewhere? No, we don't. So from the player, get movement component, not that one, just movement component, or just is swimming, they will find it for you. Is swimming character movement, and if we are swimming and if the head is more than 20 above water, then we will do branch. And what we can change from this character movement, we can change set buoyancy, which is by default on a player you have buoyancy set on 1, which is you don't go up or you don't go down. If you set it to high value, that means your player will if it's less than 1, your player goes down slowly in the water. If it's higher, for your player, it's very hard. You will slowly go up basically when you're in the water. So what we can do, we want to actually go up. So we will change this value to, where am I? Water body. So if it's true, we're going to send it to 0.8. Sorry, it's lighted the water, so your character will go down. If it's false, we'll set it back to 1. And this will be checking it constantly. So if your character is too far above the water, the water will actually let him sink in slowly and then turn it off. And again, movement component. Compile and save. This is a bit of a mess. I try to prevent actually creating player character reference, which you can do, and it's going to be a little bit cleaner, but I don't really mind as much. But now if I go and swim, go down, and then I try to go quickly up, as you can see, this is the maximum height I can reach if I go like sideways. So my chest is not above the water anymore because I can't reach it anymore. Right, this is the highest one. I go down, I go up again, and then I move. Let me try one more time. Yeah, I just can't actually get out of water too much. And now I can swim on the surface, I go down, I can go up. My head is only popping sideways, go down. So that's working as intended. There is one more issue that we have, and that is if you were to jump into water from somewhere else, or like sprint towards the corner and then jump, since the depth of the water is enough to start swimming, but the player is not in the water either, so then you will actually stay on top of the water. So that's not really nice bug to have, because you want to be able to actually jump into water. So one more thing we need to check is in this blueprint we will get socket location, we'll copy it, get it from mesh. This time we'll get the pelvis, which is default born on the character. And what we want to check is break it open. And we want to check if the Z value is greater than surface location. Break it open. Greater or less than? It should be less than, but we can do not boolean. So not boolean. So if the pelvis is above water, we'll add a pin here. No, not add a pin here, no, add a pin here, which goes to if we should start swimming or not. And if we are not above water, we won't start swimming, but if we are, we will. So the pelvis now needs to be above the water. I don't have water again, so change this. And then if I sprint and jump, I won't actually turn on the swimming until I jump down. And there is, obviously you can see that I'm sinking quite high, and that is just because you do have some movement already from jumping, and it takes the water buoyancy into account, but obviously it doesn't slow you down until you reach, like, I don't know, 2 meters down, or depends what height you're probably jumping from as well. But that's kind of working as intended. But now that should be pretty much all of the issues. I think you can even set up that you would be able to, if I delete the player start and just jump from anywhere here. Yeah, I sink down and start idle animation. Now go up and then stop swimming. So all is working fine. Only thing that we want to do now is maybe add actual what is it called, fast swimming. Basically when we hold shift we do have a sprint, so we can add fast swimming. I don't have animations for that, but we can at least, you know, speed up the character maybe. And I want to do maybe some splashes when you're in the water, and like few things like that. Or maybe underwater we want to have different sound, which we can do. And there is few things actually that I'm planning to do, but I'm not going to do it in this video because again it's very long, but I'll save it for the next one. And also obviously we want to have different stat for breath. So if we're underwater we will decrease our breath and then we'll slowly start dying. So we'll set stuff like that in the next one. Cool, I'll see you then. Bye.